Hi folks, welcome back. My name is Warbass. You are looking at the A and B case live setup that I used for the month of July in my little Julive project. My goal was to put together a live performance rig and then put on as many live sets as I possibly could throughout the month. I initially had a goal of one per day, so like 31 live sets. I shifted that a little bit to have a goal of one daily for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, kind of a recap video. Missed a few days from being sick and just life, so here's the little calendar of how it went. In terms of kind of grading myself on it, I'd maybe give myself a B on what I did versus what I set out to do. I'm super pleased with the amount of output I had. There were a couple nights there at the end where it just kind of life took over, which is, you know, normal. There are also probably some notable sets and moments that really impacted the following sets. So there's this one set later on in July, for example, where I had a headache and it just wouldn't go away for the whole day, but I decided to try to put on a set anyway. And I did this really, really slow, drawn out kind of one big single transition for a 30-minute set. And I liked that so much that it like cascaded into screwing up the next day's set, and it almost messed up what the rhythm that I had built up and the routine and all the practice that I had done for the month in getting this kind of cadence and system with the B case and A case here. That it was just stuck in my head, and it kind of messed up a little bit of my like creative process in almost a good way, probably. Here we are. The point of this video is to just talk a little bit about how things went and unpatch. You know, I answered this question a little bit in the kind of breakdown videos, but I really barely changed the patch at all over the course of the whole month. I made some very, very small tweaks, very small changes to things, and for the most part, the patch was functionally doing the same thing. I would not call it, you know, a new patch each day at all, not even a new patch each week. It was really small, minute adjustments, you know, taking panharmonium and shifting it to go through a distortion before it goes in the mixer instead of after, that kind of stuff. So all of these cables have, for the most part, been here since I, you know, set up the patch on, I guess, June 30th. So I'm going to talk a little bit about plans for what's next in this video, but the whole point of this was to unpatch things live. So I'm going to just start doing that so that I just do it while I'm talking to the camera a little bit. Recapped and done a breakdown of how the patch worked, but if you've never seen any of my videos before or aren't aware, I'll kind of also talk about some of the ins and outs of some of these modules that were ways I've used them that developed over the course of the month. You know, maybe a simplest starting point is this drum sequencer as the home base for a lot of things. It is clocking the LXR here from, you know, Erica Synths and triggering it, sorry, but it's also was clocking a separate sidechain envelope. It was clocking the Chaos. It was clocking Data Bender. It was clocking panharmonium. It was clocking a clock divider here. It was clocking brains and pressure points over there in the A case. And I think I had 15 out of 16 of these. Of course, I could have just showed you before I unplugged them. Maybe a few more than that, but nearly every channel was doing work here, which felt pretty good. It made this a nice home home base for putting together a set and performance. I didn't do any like rehearsing or saving of prepped patterns in the drum sequencer. I do all my kind of drum sequencing live. Just kind of decide what kind of kick pattern I want or what feel I want out of it, and then just start. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't, but that's the tight drum sequencing and super fine-tuned prep work into music production is just not something that I super enjoy. Part of the whole goal of this month was to simply get better at performing live and being able to walk up to my instrument of choice, being these cases, and feel confident that with just a patch that, or I guess more of like a configuration of them, because it was a pretty locked patch, with a certain configuration that I'm comfortable with, be confident I could put on, a set amount of time of music that I would be happy with. One of the things as I do this that I think was not utilized well was Clank Chaos. Super powerful little module, but I didn't really do the prep ever to set up each of its channels, pages, to get the most out of them. And because each night when I would put on a set, I'd basically have enough time to come in here, sound check, make sure everything was working, clear the SD card off the camera and start. And that's kind of it. I never really gave myself the time to sit down and reconfigure Clank Chaos after a few nights or sets of realizing the gaps that I had with it. It's one of those things that as I think about what's next, which I'll talk about in this video, isn't going anywhere yet. So I'll probably splice in throughout this video some of my favorite moments of the month. How about here's one right now. Funny, at the time of saying that, I didn't have the moment decided. I did put up a poll a few days ago, maybe a little longer than that, around what I should do with all of this music. I think the spinning camera rig and production level increase that I try to do just to like make something, watchable for this format was fun. And I think it worked for what it did. And I, sincerely appreciate the number of people that seem to be listening and wanting to listen to, a net new 30 minutes of music nearly daily from me. That was kind of a unique thing for me in my music endeavors for my life. However, I now have all of this music, and I know I said going into this project that, I don't have much desire to sit down and like write an album, but there are definitely moments within these sets that I recorded that stand out to me as being, particularly successful in being examples of executing my intentions well with the instrument. It's a poorly phrased sentence, but part of the whole idea of the month was to simply get better at being able to do that communication between myself and the instrument. So, I want to have this kind of swell, or I want to be able to pull this tone out of a sample, or, bring in a kind of heavy rhythm in a certain way, be able to then execute that. Not just kind of imagine it. Imagining and planning it out and having an idea to what to do next is one chunk of it. But if you can't actually navigate whatever your instrument of choice is to make that happen, then you're just left with an idea. Ideas are free. What's the saying? in the poll, I really wasn't sure what to do with all of this music, if I should put some on streaming services, which I don't really have any. But there's definitely content from the last month that I thought would be worthwhile to put somewhere besides just these YouTube videos. And it seems like overwhelmingly the results of that poll, which I'll put up on screen here, are to kind of crop out tracks from any set throughout the month to put together some kind of like album. Listening to some of the latest Aphex stuff, and it reminded me of like the, you know, even the title of Selected Ambient Works, that idea of creating a bunch of music and then just sitting down and choosing from a library that you created of what to put together to, you know, assemble a new collected composition or album. You know, if good old Richard can do it, then why can't anybody do it? Throughout the month, I was doing lots of listening back to each set. So the next day, as I'm in the car or doing something, I would listen to the set from the previous day. I didn't really watch many of the videos, but it was nice to be able to, without the context and the ability to see what I was doing and walking around, just try and listen back blindly. And the car was probably the best, which is a little cliche, but who cares? So I haven't done that in a couple days, maybe a week. So I'm gonna probably take my time in identifying the segments that I would want to collect and put together into some kind of album. And the thing I think I'm struggling with that is making me pause on even considering starting that process is that so much of these sets were built around the pattern and structure of, we're going to do some heavy, distorted, noisy chaos drums in your face, clipping, zero headroom left. Then we're going to sample those. Here, what am I doing? I've been over here this whole time and I forgot that I can do this. And we're going to sample those and turn them into something the opposite. You know, create complete chaos and mess, heavy distortion, and then pull out kind of a beautiful harmonic landscape from it. Because the A case doesn't, you know, this case you're looking at right now, doesn't have any traditional oscillators. Like you could use beads, obviously in granular synthesis. It's got a wavetable mode that I never use. Panharmonium is of course a resynthesizer, so it's got oscillators in it, but I didn't freeze the buffer at all and use it as like a traditional oscillator, which you could. So all of the moments in the set where, or in the sets that kind of pulled into these kind of big harmonic ambient drone spaces were all just samples of the heavy drums mangled by what the A case does best, or in the ways that the A case does best. So I'm struggling when I'm thinking about cropping the sets up and isolating segments. How do I maintain that relationship, or you know, admittedly not even try to, between a segment that is heavy, distorted, and a segment that is, you know, light and drony? Or do I just not worry about that at all and try and just grab my favorites, and whether most of the favorites fall in the heavier side or most of them fall in the kind of ambient drone side, so be it. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Here we go. We're all done. Look at that. The camera's not on rails. It's on an arm mounted to the ceiling. I get that question every couple videos. Let's get out the overpriced cliche duster that actually works super well. And I'm kind of glad that I have cleaned this thing off. All right, so that's kind of Julive. If you have any questions around what I did, or if there's something that you thought I might say in this video that I didn't, just ask me in the comments. I am an open book with this stuff. So on to what's next. The whole month has really been the two cases, right? It's been the setup. They are, the rug in this room is severely dented from my stand here always being in the exact same spot. And the two cases working together like this has been great. Really, really great. It's taken, the mission that I set out with when I even started assembling this B case, with a real purpose, which is like months ago, early on the kind of talking portion of this channel's lifespan. And it's now kind of fulfilling the goals that I originally had with it, which is great, especially as a cohesive pair of instruments that are working together to fulfill one bigger goal, each playing very different roles, and in a way that I think I would have designed them, chosen models differently, laid them out differently. If I had one of those kind of big single cases, those beautiful like kind of pieces of furniture where all the modules are kind of mixed in together, I would have ended up with some very different music, I think, at the end of the day. I think the form here is a very large component of the sound because it's a forcing function for considering the layout of the features and modules. And it's been part of my goal to make these two separate instruments work really well together, but operate well independently. And that's what is next. So they're breaking up. The B case is going to get some refinements. We are going to explore some potential new ways of mixing. There we go. There's a vortices waiting to go in. I've got a bitbox coming tomorrow. The Polygogo is going to go on deck to maybe be sold. Zagreb, the same. We are going to kind of radically shake up mostly just the top row here of the B case. I've seen a whole bunch of videos of people with little like mini modulars in an Octatrack where they put together a pattern, live sample that pattern on beat, then edit it and fade back and forth between them. And I want to see if that's possible. So that's kind of what the bitbox is hopefully going to do. It's a micro, so we'll see if it does what I need it to. But that's going to be the primary goal. And Polygogo is on its way out for now because it was probably the least used thing for the HP it takes up in this case. I love it. It's a great oscillator. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the interface is incredible. And who doesn't love this little spinny shape here? So B case is getting module focus and refinement from a methods and purpose to try and get the output here better, because sometimes I would feel that my drum grooves and rhythm section was really, really great over the last month, and sometimes I felt that it was really lacking in a couple of features. So B case is going to get worked on, refined. So there'll be some videos and content coming up about gear from the B case perspective. We're going to get back into talking about developing new processes, methods, swapping things out, trial and error, and testing out gear. And that's going to be kind of what you maybe saw in June and before from me. Meanwhile, a case, I don't think I'm changing a thing. It's lovely. Right before July kicked off, I did get this Rich Electronics clock divider and snuck it in here. So my zero scope that was over here is gone. I don't really need it anymore. It's in my, no, it's not even in my overflow case. So I've talked about this overflow case a few times. Here it is, under the lights and out of focus. It's full right now, pretty much, which means I either have to sell something from it to make room or sell a module that I decide to kick out. Anyways, A case is probably not going to get the same kind of gear videos that B case will get. Instead, the A case is hopefully going to do a bit of traveling. You know, part of the case design, the dual instrument interfaces, the fact that these have phantom power. You know, I have another video which I'll link to about the lids for these cases, the fact that I can run this off a battery, bring stereo condenser mics with me, and go out in the world and sample not necessarily, you know, a heavy techno set, but sample nature. I don't know, a train, a whole bunch of different things. And so I want to take this case places and listen to kind of live field recordings and transform them into something else, in the same way that July was about taking heavy techno rhythm and transforming it into something else. So A case is going to do its same job, but on different source material. I have this idea of maybe a recurring series where I kind of patch this up, and the patch would probably need to change kind of for each, I'll call it, episode of the series, but maybe one episode might be a single patch, and then we take that one patch to 3 different places. You know, we go listen to a river with that patch and see what it sounds like. Go out by a busy road, train station, busy city street, I don't know. See how different source material impacts and drives a patch in real time. And then the next episode would be maybe start with a different patch and take it to 3 new different places. Kind of the opposite of the like 3 module challenge in Eurorack. Instead, 1 patch, 3 locations. That's kind of the idea. So the weather here is going to start getting a little less intense, and I think that's maybe the perfect time to move around with this synth a little bit out in the world and not have to worry about it being in the 80s and 90s and just getting beat up by the sun. So more music stuff to come, more ambient stuff probably on that side, droney, maybe kind of noise in like a much more traditional sense than I might have used noise to describe that case, is going to come from me in A case videos, and again B case more about refinement, because I think it still needs some work. It's close, it's getting there, but there's a few final steps. Let me stop that camera shake. All right, that's it. We're unpatched. It was a fun month. Thank you so much if you listened. If you haven't, and you managed to listen to me talk right now for 25 minutes, go give a set a listen, or maybe start with one of the commentary videos where I kind of talk over a set and describe what's happening. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. Probably not, but maybe a little bit. And hopefully you enjoy the stuff that's coming up next, because I'm excited about kind of a next phase here. And I'm sure in breaking the 2 cases up to go do different things, there'll be another time where they come back together on this lovely little spinning setup, and we'll do it all again. Until next time, peace.